Hello, good evening, Level Up crew. How are you all doing? Hope you've all had a brilliant weekend and you've got lots of great stuff planned for the week coming. Last Sunday, I asked you if anybody had any questions around fitness or nutrition to let me know, and I would try my best to answer them. So the only question that I had in was around managing lower back pain and strengthening the core. So I can speak from personal experience on this because I've had a terribly bad lower back for years and years and years, and it kind of feels like only this year really, probably about the last 12 months is when I've really managed to get it under control. And I've seen kind of anybody that you can think of really over the years. I used to go to a chiropractor a lot, which cost me an absolute fortune. And what that would tend to do, it would usually sort of treat the symptoms, but not sort of provide anything kind of preventative or anything like that. I saw an osteopath, which provided a great diagnosis, but again didn't really give me anything to sort of improve the situation. So fixed it, diagnosed it, but didn't help me kind of manage it. And then eventually last year it got really, really bad. I can't even particularly remember what I did to trigger it, but it got so bad that I couldn't sort of bend down to put a plate of food on the table. And it was particularly bad at a time when our daughter was still in her cot. And if I had to go in to try and comfort her in the middle of the night, I could pick her up, okay, because I could kind of, she was usually sort of stood up crying or whatever, and I could get her up. And then I'd sort of try and get her back to sleep, and then realise that I couldn't really put her down. So I had to sort of lean over one side of the cot like that, and then sort of lower her down. Without sort of dropping her and waking her back up. So that was obviously a long way from ideal. So I went to see a physio who gave me the same diagnosis that the osteopath had given me, which was that I actually had an issue with my hamstrings. So what the physio prescribed for me was a ton of hamstring stretches, which I did, maybe not quite as much as she had suggested, but I did, and it really helps me to keep that back pain under control. Now, more recently, I've started doing restorative yoga. So you'll have seen, hopefully, some of my posts around Recovery Week and the app that I use for the restorative yoga that I do. And I find doing that kind of 2 or 3 times a week really helps. And one of the really big things for me from it is that it means I'm back. I can hit the gym as hard as I want. I can deadlift, which is brilliant. Now, for the deadlift, because I've got particularly long legs and I'm really worried about my lower back, for my home gym, which I'm sat in here now in the garage, I invested in a hex bar, which is where the handles are at the side, rather than a straight bar across the front. Now, I find that so much easier to use, and I feel like it has no risk, well, very little risk, as long as I keep my form right for my lower back, which is great. So I kind of feel like I know quite a bit, at least from personal experience, but mine is kind of focused around tension in the hamstrings. Now, that can come if you sit at a desk a lot all day, if you run quite a bit, if you cycle quite a bit, you can end up with quite a lot of tightness in the hamstrings. Now, in terms of cycling and sitting at a desk a lot, definitely guilty as charged right here. So some of the stuff that I do, I've already posted about, so I won't go kind of through full stretching routines again. But if you look back in the videos, find those around hamstrings, hips and lower back. Really have a good look at those hold those stretches for at least 30 seconds, if not a minute, and make sure that you're really breathing through that stretch and getting nice and deep into that stretch, and really sort of challenging yourself to keep going further and further in that stretch, so that you're really starting to genuinely kind of stretch out the muscles that are under tension. One of the other things that I wanted to show is a quick exercise, which I'll get to in just a moment. But also really think about your posture as you're sitting and as you're standing as well, and particularly as you're lifting and carrying young children. That's something that can be quite bad for me. You know, you've got your kid there sort of wanting picking up, and you just kind of go for it. Now, when it's my children, I have to remember to sort of bend down differently and lift with my legs, so that I'm not kind of putting that unnecessary load through my lower back. So another thing for you to think about there as well. Now, in terms of core strength, now we do a lot of this in the classes, but really kind of focus on developing the length of time you can hold a plank for. If you can't do it for very long, then think about separating it out into different sets. So you could do, rather than try and hold for a minute or 2 minutes, you could try and do 3 sets of 20 seconds and build that up gradually, really focusing on holding some good tension right the way through the core. Other things that you can look to focus on as well is the obliques. So something that we do in the classes is a Russian twist, which is where we're twisting the body through this sort of range of motion. Now that can also really help the obliques, which helps to strengthen out the whole core, because we must remember that when we're focusing on the core, it isn't just about sit-ups, and it isn't just about these top 4 elements of the fabled six-pack across the abs. Okay, so it's the whole trunk section of the body. So that's why also we've started introducing some bridges into the classes as well. So that's something else that you can think about. And these are all things that if it's useful, I can put together some little programs that you can do in sort of 10 to 15 minutes at home, either first thing in the morning or last thing at night before bed, and really start to kind of work those in to your day to really start to strengthen those areas. So the final thing that I just wanted to show you is just one more exercise that, again, you can do at home. I'm going to do it on the bench here, but this is actually easier if you do it on a bed. Okay, so I'm going to do it from here. So lying down on the bench, so that basically all of your torso is on the bench or the bed. Reach forward so that you've got something to hold on to. That'll probably be the other side of the mattress if you're doing it from the bed. And then what we're doing is we're lifting our legs up through and above the horizontal. And if you start to aim to do a couple of sets of 10, 2 or 3 sets of 10 of those, either every morning or every evening, then that can really start to support the difference in improving the lower back situation and also the core as well, because it's not something that we often think about. You know, you can do sit-ups all day long, but that isn't going to strengthen all of the muscles within the core, within the trunk section. So I hope that's been of use. Do feel free to post any further questions or comments in the comments on this video, or do feel free to just generally ask me any questions and I will try my best to help. Thanks very much. I hope this has been useful. See you all soon.